and they'll never be forgotten.
Old Trafford, this afternoon we are honoured and delighted to welcome back someone who has been part of the tapestry of the history of this club, has won 5 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 10 Charity Community Shields, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup, 1 European Super Cup, 2 Champions League titles, Intercontinental Cup, 1 FIFA Club World Cup, and 13 Premier League titles. The impossible dream made possible by the greatest British manager ever. Give the warmest of all Trafford welcomes to Sir Alex Ferguson.
In the world of football, glory is often measured by trophies, fame, and records. But behind every dynasty, there's a story the world rarely sees of struggle, sacrifice, and raw determination. Long before the lights of Old Trafford, before the chants and the Champions League nights, there was a boy born into the grey industrial streets of Govan, Scotland. He didn't grow up with privilege. He wasn't gifted with comfort. What he had was fire, a fire lit in the heart of poverty, stoked by rejection, and fueled by an unbreakable will to rise. He wasn't the most talented player, he was never the favorite. But he knew how to fight. And more importantly, he knew how to lead. This boy would grow into a man who didn't just manage a football team, he built a culture, inspired generations, and redefined greatness. He would go on to lead one of the most iconic football clubs in history through eras of dominance that spanned decades. Not with excuses, but with excellence. Not with noise, but with relentless focus. This isn't just a football story. This is the journey of a man who started with nothing, battled through everything, and changed the game forever. This is the incredible rise of Sir Alex Ferguson. Before ambition took hold, before football became his battlefield, Sir Alex Ferguson was just a working-class boy in the harsh, cold heart of post-war Scotland. Born on December 31, 1941, in the tough district of Govan in Glasgow, a place known not for dreams, but for discipline, his world was one of steel, smoke, and struggle. Govan was a shipbuilding town, and life was built on calloused hands, early mornings, and survival. His father, Alexander Sr., worked in the shipyards, a quiet, humble man who came home exhausted, with oil on his skin and grit in his breath. His mother, Elizabeth, ran the home with fierce pride and unwavering resilience. There was no luxury, no shortcuts, just hard work, strict values, and the expectation that you earned everything through sweat and respect. As a young boy, Alex saw fights in the streets, union strikes, and families breaking under pressure. But through it all, he learned the values that would define him: loyalty, discipline, toughness, and most importantly, the refusal to quit. While other kids played for fun, Alex played to win. Even in street matches, his intensity stood out. Losing was never an option. Education was there, but football was where he truly came alive. It wasn't just a sport, it was the one thing he could control, where effort equaled progress. That hunger, that mindset, it didn't come from books. It was forged in the fire of his environment. Govan didn't raise dreamers. It raised fighters. And Sir Alex Ferguson would become the fiercest of them all. Alex Ferguson didn't enter football as a prodigy. He wasn't born into elite academies or scouted at a young age. He started from the grassroots, the local pitches, where bruises were lessons, and every goal was a war won. In 1957, he began his senior career at Queen's Park while still working as an apprentice toolmaker in the shipyards, the very same place where his father had labored his whole life. By day, he shaped metal. By night, he shaped himself mentally, physically, and emotionally. His dual life as a worker and footballer taught him time management, endurance, and the importance of never wasting an opportunity. It was during these gritty years that Ferguson became known not just for scoring goals, but for his drive. He was a striker with edge, aggressive, determined, fearless. He played with the fury of a man who refused to go unnoticed. He moved to St Johnstone, then to Dunfermline, and eventually to Rangers, one of Scotland's biggest clubs. It was a dream move, but not a perfect journey. At Rangers, he faced criticism, internal politics, and heartbreak after being blamed for a defeat in the Scottish Cup final. The pressure and judgment nearly broke him. But instead of sinking, he studied. Ferguson wasn't just playing football, he was decoding it. Watching tactics, reading movements, noticing patterns. While others played, he observed. While others relaxed, he asked questions. That obsession, that focus, it was the seed of his future greatness. He may not have become a world-class footballer, but he was becoming something far more rare, a man who could lead others. A man who could transform not just players, but entire systems. His playing career was solid, but not legendary. And yet, it was never supposed to be. His destiny wasn't on the pitch, it was on the sidelines, in the locker rooms, in the hearts and minds of men. He was never meant to be just another player. He was meant to command, to build, to dominate. When Sir Alex Ferguson transitioned from player to manager, he didn't walk into glory. He walked into uncertainty. At just 32 years old, he took his first job at East Stirlingshire, a club with no money, no resources, and barely enough players. But from the very first day, one thing was clear: Ferguson didn't care about excuses. He demanded excellence. He had no big budget, no big stars, just a whistle, a vision, and a voice that could shake walls. Players who once strolled into training now arrived early, alert, and afraid to disappoint. Discipline became law, and within weeks, his intensity became legend. Next came Street Mirren, where he took a team buried in mediocrity and turned them into champions. He rebuilt them from the ground up, not just tactically, but mentally. He didn't just coach football. He coached attitude. But after leading them to promotion, he was shockingly sacked over a contractual dispute. For most men, that would have been the end. But Ferguson wasn't most men. He saw every setback as fuel, every insult as motivation. Then came Aberdeen, and everything changed. Aberdeen was not supposed to win. In Scottish football, two names ruled the land: Celtic and Rangers. They had the money, the fans, the history. Aberdeen, they were the outsiders, the forgotten ones. But to Ferguson, that was perfect. He didn't want comfort, he wanted a challenge. And he came in like a storm. He broke the complacency. He shattered the underdog mentality. And he turned Aberdeen into warriors. In just a few years, he did the impossible: he broke the old firm monopoly. Aberdeen won 3 league titles, 4 Scottish Cups, and in 1983, against all odds, they conquered Europe. In the European Cup Winners' Cup final, Aberdeen defeated Real Madrid. Yes, a small Scottish club, beating one of the biggest football giants in the world. It wasn't just a win. It was a revolution. A message to the world: greatness isn't about resources. It's about belief, hunger, and leadership. Ferguson had proven himself. Not just as a good coach, but as a genius, a disruptor, a builder of dynasties. By the time Manchester United came calling in 1986, he wasn't chasing opportunity, he was the opportunity. When Alex Ferguson arrived at Manchester United in November 1986, he didn't walk into a kingdom, he walked into chaos. The club was a giant in name, but not in results. The glory days of the Busby Babes had long faded. The team was fractured, the dressing room divided, and the expectations crushing. Manchester United hadn't won a league title in nearly 2 decades. The pressure wasn't just heavy, it was toxic. Ferguson stepped into Old Trafford not as a savior, but as a man with something to prove. And the media made sure to remind him again and again that he was no miracle worker. For the first 3 years, results were inconsistent. Fans were frustrated. Pundits mocked him. Headlines began to sharpen their blades: Ferguson must go. The boardroom grew nervous. The knives were out. And then came the darkest hour, the 1989-90 season. Manchester United was near the bottom of the table. One more loss, and Ferguson's fate would likely be sealed. His job was hanging by a thread. The pressure was unbearable. Some inside the club were already planning for his replacement. But in the midst of the storm, Ferguson didn't run. He didn't beg. He didn't panic. Instead, he did what he'd always done: he fought. In January 1990, the FA Cup became his lifeline. Manchester United scraped through round after round, barely surviving. But they made it to the final. And in a replay against Crystal Palace, they won. That trophy may seem small compared to what came later, but in that moment it saved everything. It silenced the critics, reignited the fire, and gave Ferguson the breathing room he needed to build. That FA Cup wasn't just silverware, it was a resurrection. It was the turning point where everything changed. From the ashes of near dismissal, he began to lay the foundations of a football empire. He restructured the youth system, signed hungry players, and instilled discipline like never before. He started preparing not just to win games, but to win eras. What followed would shake the football world to its core. From the brink of being fired, Sir Alex Ferguson didn't just survive, he transformed. What followed was one of the most dominant reigns in sports history. Ferguson didn't build a team. He built a machine, a relentless, evolving empire that ruled English football for over 2 decades. It all began in 1993, when Manchester United lifted their first league title in 26 years. It was more than a win, it was a national awakening. The hunger was back. The pride had returned. And Ferguson wasn't done. He had already restructured the club's culture, discipline, unity, and youth development became sacred. He nurtured the famous class of '92, David Beckham, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, boys who would become legends under his mentorship. Ferguson didn't just sign stars. He created them. Every time critics said his team was finished, he rebuilt. Every time a rival rose up, he crushed them. His greatest gift wasn't just tactics, it was timing. He knew when to let go, when to evolve, when to take risks. He was always 3 steps ahead. His greatest masterpiece? The treble-winning season of 1998-99. In a single season, Manchester United won the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the UEFA Champions League, a feat never before achieved in English football. And that Champions League final? Down 1-0 to Bayern Munich in injury time. United scored twice in stoppage time. From despair to delirium in just 3 minutes. It was pure Ferguson, never giving up, never surrendering, believing until the very last second. In 1999, after guiding Manchester United to a historic treble, winning the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the UEFA Champions League all in one season, Alex Ferguson received one of the highest honours the British Crown can bestow. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II for his unparalleled contribution to the game of football. Under his command, Manchester United won 13 Premier League titles, 5 FA Cups, 4 League Cups, 2 Champions League trophies, over 30 major trophies in total. But his empire wasn't just about silverware. It was about culture, belief, and fearlessness. Players feared him, but they also loved him. He could break you down in the dressing room and build you back up into a champion. For over 26 years, Ferguson didn't just dominate football. He changed it. His name became a standard. His presence on the touchline, chewing gum, arms crossed, eyes burning with intensity, became iconic. He wasn't a manager anymore. He was a force of nature. In 2013, after 26 years at the helm of Manchester United and over 1,500 matches managed, Sir Alex Ferguson made the decision that shook the football world. He retired. The man who had become the face of an era, who had inspired millions and terrified opponents, stepped down, not with defeat, but with dignity. He bowed out as a champion, having just secured his 13th Premier League title, a final crown to seal his dynasty. His farewell speech at Old Trafford echoed with raw emotion.
First of all, it's a thank you to Manchester United, not just the directors, not just the medical staff, the coaching staff, the players, the supporters, it's all of you. You have been the most fantastic experience of my life. Thank you.
Tens of thousands stood in silence and in tears. He didn't speak like a king stepping down, he spoke like a teacher, a father, a leader. Your job now, he told the fans, is to stand by your new manager. Even in goodbye, he was still thinking of the club's future. That was Ferguson, always bigger than the moment. But just 5 years later, in 2018, life threw him into his toughest battle yet. A brain hemorrhage left him fighting for survival. The football world held its breath. The man who had outlasted generations of players, managers, and critics now lay in silence, his fate uncertain. But if history had taught us anything, it's this: never count Sir Alex Ferguson out. Through intense surgery, recovery, and therapy, he fought back with the same grit that once defined his teams. When he reappeared at Old Trafford months later, the applause wasn't for a coach. It was for a warrior, a survivor, a symbol of strength that could not be broken. Since retirement, he's remained a mentor and inspiration, writing books, speaking to young leaders, and still showing up at the club he gave his soul to. Though he no longer paces the touchline, his influence still echoes in every manager who studies his tactics, in every captain who models his leadership, and in every underdog who believes they, too, can rise. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't just win trophies. He rewrote what it means to lead, what it means to build, what it means to endure. His legacy isn't measured in silverware. It's measured in the lives he changed, the players he elevated, and the mindset he instilled into the game itself. Sir Alex Ferguson once said, "Hard work will always overcome natural talent when natural talent does not work hard enough." This simple truth became the foundation of everything he achieved. Talent alone was never enough for Ferguson. It was the daily grind, the relentless focus, the refusal to settle that transformed a boy from a shipbuilding town into the most successful football manager in history. His story teaches us that greatness is not a gift. It's a choice. It's about showing up when no one is watching, pushing through pain, and believing in your vision even when the world doubts you. From the streets of Govan to the pinnacle of world football, Sir Alex Ferguson's journey reminds us all: success is earned, not given. If you take one lesson from his incredible life, let it be this: no matter where you start, no matter how many times you fall, the power to rise and conquer lies within you. Sir Alex Ferguson's journey teaches us that greatness is never handed to anyone on a silver platter. It is forged through years of hard work, relentless resilience, and the courage to keep pushing forward even when the odds are stacked against you. No matter where you come from or what challenges you face, you have the strength within you to rise above, to rewrite your own story, and to leave a lasting legacy that inspires generations to come. So stand tall, work harder than ever before, and believe fiercely in your dreams, because your greatest triumph is still waiting to be written. That's the inspirational story of Sir Alex Ferguson. If his story inspired you, hit like, share this video, and subscribe for more tales of resilience and greatness.